Hello, everybody. I'm excited to lead this training today. My name is Michael Morgan, and I'm going to train everyone on how to successfully make the transition to supervisor. So, just going through the agenda very quickly. First, I'm going to go over the steps to become a supervisor. So, everyone doesn't start off as a supervisor, you have to start somewhere. Once you do become a supervisor, I want to give you guidance so that you can excel in your role as a leader. And last but not least, I want to make sure that everyone understands the importance of emotional intelligence so that you can perform your job at a high level as a supervisor. And then at the end, I will leave time for questions and answers. Now, before we get started, just want to put a question out there for the crowd. How many people on the call today are individual contributors that are seeking to become supervisors and people managers? Put a +1 in the chat. Okay, I see a few individual contributors here that are seeking to become that supervisor level. Who on the call today is already a leader, maybe a brand new leader that are looking to get tips, guidance to better excel in your role? All right. Well, it looks like we have a good mix of both individual contributors as well as supervisors. I have plenty of content that's helpful for both of you. So we'll get started, and I want to make note if anyone has any questions at any point in time, please feel free to list your questions in the chat. Feel free to unmute yourself, ask me any questions at any time. I'm here to help you. So, with that being said, I'm going to start off. This is relevant for those who are individuals that are individual contributors that are seeking to make the transition to a people manager role. So, first and foremost, you have to excel in your role at a high level. You have to perform. So, when opportunities come to become a people manager, to become a supervisor, they're looking for the top performers. They're looking for the high performers. So, first and foremost, make sure you do your job and you do it well. This is going to help you stand out, and this is going to give you opportunities to make that transition over to a people manager. If leaders see that you're performing at a high level as an individual contributor, they may naturally reach out to you and have those discussions to see if you can lead teams as well. Okay. Secondly, it is very important to think big. This is how you're going to make that jump from an individual contributor to a people manager. So, a great individual contributor will focus on their job, they'll focus on their role. A leader is thinking big. So, my role may be within a specific team, but what am I doing to make an impact on the greater team? Not just doing my role, how am I impacting the greater team? How am I impacting the greater organization or even the company? If you put on a hat and you're able to think big and make an impact on a greater organization, how am I improving processes to reduce time for other people? How am I helping to generate more revenue for the company? How am I making this a better customer experience? Leaders are owners. Even though something may not be in your specific realm, if you're able to think on a big scale of how it will impact the greater organization, and not just focus on your job specifically, that will take you to the next level. First and foremost, as I said, you have to perform your job and excel in your role. But on top of that, you have to go above and beyond and think big and figure out ways you can make an impact on the greater organization. And your ability to think on a larger level and find ways to impact the greater organization will display your ability to take on a leadership role. Okay. Next is leading without authority. This is something I talk to people about all the time. There is a misconception where people assume that you need to be a people manager and you need direct reports in order to be a leader. That's not correct. Anyone can be a leader. You have to take on the responsibility. So when I say lead without authority, think of a situation where you may be leading a project. There may be 10 people involved in the project, but you are leading the project. Even though everyone that's a part of the project may not report to you directly, you're still leading them. You're guiding them. You're making sure that you're sticking to the timelines of the project. You're making sure you stick to the cost. You're doing problem solving. You're delegating work across the different individuals in the project. So there are ways you can lead without having direct reports. You can be a mentor. You know, being a mentor to someone is showing your leadership capabilities without you having a direct report. Many companies have employee resource groups. So companies will have a Black employee network, a women's network, an Asian network. You can take on leadership roles in these employee resource groups, and that will show your ability to lead. You can join external organizations outside of your company or get involved in volunteer opportunities outside your company and take on leadership roles with those organizations as well. So there's a lot of ways that you can lead without necessarily needing to be a manager, but you have to take the onus, you have to take the responsibility, and you have to find those opportunities where you can lead even when you don't have direct reports. Okay. Next item, interview candidates. This is another big topic that I bring up with a lot of people. A lot of people assume that in order to get involved with interviewing, you need to have a team. That is not the case. I've done interviews before I was a manager. I've done interviews while I was a manager. And even as a manager, I've done interviews for candidates for other teams. I don't always interview candidates that report to me directly. So you need to make sure you're having the conversations with your boss to identify those opportunities where you can get involved in interviewing and maybe start off small. You can start off shadowing other people or doing phone screens and eventually work your way up to when you're involved in an interview loop to hire candidates. But make sure you're having those conversations and you're asking for those opportunities to get involved in the interview process. It makes a big difference. So make sure you're getting involved in the interviewing. It will help you take that step towards being a leader within the organization. Next, get experience and get feedback. So when I say get experience, there are stepping stones that you can take that will help lead you to get to a supervisor role. So as an example, before I take on a role where I'm managing full-time employees, maybe I can find an opportunity to manage contractors. Maybe I can find an opportunity to manage interns. Interns are only there for maybe a 10 to 12 week period, but that's a good way for me to get experience managing individuals. The same thing with contractors. Contractors may be there for a short period of time. Maybe it's a few months, maybe it's a few weeks. But if you find opportunities where you can manage contractors, interns, this is good experience to show what you're capable of and build up your skills as a leader so that you can take that next step and become a people manager. Next item, get feedback. This is critical as well. Have these conversations with your manager. Make sure your manager understands you want to take this step and do a transition from an individual contributor to a people manager. And ask what areas of improvement are out there for you. And have those candid conversations. And if your manager gives you direct feedback on gaps that you need to close in order to take the next step to become a people manager, make sure you're taking those action steps in order to close those gaps. But you need to have these conversations with your manager, with other leaders, get that feedback so that you can develop and grow and become a better leader and be better prepared for the opportunity. Okay. Last but not least, provide a business reason. So, what I have seen throughout my career is a lot of people will simply go up to management and leaders and tell them, I want to be a people manager, but they're not providing business rationale for it. So don't just say, I want to be a leader. Provide a business reason why you should get a team. If you identify a problem within an organization and you provide a solution, I believe that we should do X, Y, and Z in order to mitigate this issue. This is too big of an issue for one person to manage on their own. I am recommending that you provide me with two full-time employees to report to me. I will have one work on A, I'll have one work on B, and by me leading these two individuals, I will be able to improve the business by X amount. So now I've identified a problem. I've provided a solution. I've said specifically what I want. I need two full-time employees to report to me. I've already outlined what I want each of them to work on. And now I'm providing the manager with reasoning and rationale to provide me with direct reports and how I can impact the business by getting those direct reports. So don't just think that you can just go up to leaders and just say, "Hey, I want to be a manager, provide me with a team." You need to provide them with reason. They're not just going to just give you headcount. You have to justify it. And if you provide them with the proper issue that's going on in the company and business rationale and a plan of what you're going to do if you're allocated those headcount, it will make it a much easier transition to get to a people manager role. All right. Any questions so far? All right, we will move on. So, this next slide is focused on how do you excel as a leader? So, the first slide was focused on how do I make that transition from individual contributor to a people leader? And now that you're in the position as a people manager, I'm trying to give you guidance so that you can excel in this role. So, first and foremost, you want to hire and develop the best talent. Now, every manager situation is different. Sometimes you may come into a situation where you inherit a team that someone else had already hired. Sometimes you may come into a situation where you have to build your own team. Regardless whether you're hiring the team or not, you still need to invest time in developing them. So you need to build out these skills where you're able to interview candidates and identify the best talent. And then you need to build the skills to understand what are the strengths of your team, where are the areas for opportunity, and how can I develop the individuals on my team and make it more cohesive so that we're a strong team collectively. So you really want to think about that. That's why I said in the previous slide, you want to get more involved with interviewing because if you're involved with interviewing when you're an individual contributor, it will make it that much easier to be doing interviewing and hiring as a people manager. As a manager, you're only as strong as your team. So it's critical that you're hiring and developing the right people. Okay. Secondly, you want to understand needs and wants. So everybody is different. You cannot treat all your direct reports the same. Some direct reports, they may be driven by money. So if you give them compensation incentives for completing projects or gift cards, promotions, that's going to drive them to perform at their best level. Some direct employees will be motivated by the projects that they work on. So if you're ensuring that they can work on things that are important to them and projects that have high visibility, now they'll perform harder for you. Some employees they enjoy recognition. That could be you sending out an email company wide congratulating them on a big initiative they completed. Or that could be you sending a message to your leader, to a director, to a VP, highlighting the great work that your team has done. But you have to understand what's important to each individual, and you have to work to provide them with those incentives to help drive them. But make sure you're understanding each of the direct reports on your team and what's important to them. And that will help you to ensure that they're performing at a high level. Delegate. This is very important. So I've seen this all the time. I've seen very strong individual contributors become people managers. And when they become people managers, they don't know how to let go of the work. As a people manager, you only have so much time in the day. You can't do everything. You have to make sure you're delegating work to your team. Use your team. They are there for a reason. And the only way for them to grow and develop is for you to give them opportunities. So make sure that you're properly delegating work across the team. You're identifying who is the right person to work on what initiatives, but you cannot do everything on your own. Use your team, delegate the work. Okay. Next item, manage workload. So, as a people manager, you should be the filter as far as what work your team is working on and what they are not working on. So, every year, you should work on a strategy and a list to prioritize what are the most critical items that we should focus on. Most companies call it an operating plan. But ultimately, at the end of the day, there could be 20 different initiatives that your team can work on. But you may only have a team of two, a team of three, a team of five. You can't do everything. You need to identify what are the most critical items that my team has the capacity to work on and identify, okay, these items are above the line, these items are below the line. The items that are above the line, that's what we're going to focus on. And sometimes there may be urgent issues that pop up, and you may want to build out a buffer just in case your team has to be used as a resource for other deliverables. But you're the one that should be determining what work is getting put on your team, what work is being filtered out. You're that mediator. So make sure one, you make sure you're delegating work across the team, but two, also make sure that you're identifying what the team should be working on and should not be working on. Okay. All right, the next item, question for everybody. Who here has worked and had a micromanager in their career at some point? Put a +1 in the chat if you have ever worked with a micromanager. All right, I'm seeing a lot of +1s. Now, when you had someone micromanage you, how did you feel? Did you perform well? Did this help you? So I'm seeing a lot of a lot of responses where people did not enjoy their work experience when they had someone micromanage them. Uh, when you become a people manager, or if you are a people manager, think about that as well. People want autonomy. This is going to help them grow and develop as individuals. Understand where people are in their career. If someone is brand new to the workforce, maybe they're straight out of college, or maybe someone's new to the company and they're still adjusting to the corporate culture, maybe you want to assist them and help them a little bit more. But if someone's been in the industry and the company for years and they're a strong employee, you don't need to micromanage them. Give them the autonomy, the freedom to work on initiatives as they see fit. If they come to you for guidance, obviously help them and give them guidance as they're requesting it. But you don't need to be involved in every meeting, every email, every deliverable. Trust your team. This is how they're going to grow and develop. So give them the freedom and autonomy to perform. Okay. Next item, you want to highlight team accomplishments. So when I say team accomplishments, I've seen a lot of managers in my work experience that just focus on themselves. If you focus on what your team has done and what they have accomplished, this will make you look good as a leader. If you have a strong team and they've all performed, they're all ranked high, they're people within your team are getting promoted, this shows that you have hired and developed a strong team. So don't just focus on yourself. Obviously, as a leader, you're still working on deliverables yourself in addition to deliverables that you're delegating to your team. But if you focus on what your team success is, it will make you look good as a leader. Okay. Next item, data is king. Always have data to support what your team is working on. Highlight the results and the impact your team has brought to the business. Whether your team helped reduce costs within the organization, or helped reduce the cycle time of a process, helped generate additional revenue. Highlight what your team has been able to accomplish and the impact it has to the organization. And if you have the data to support it, this will show that you are a strong leader because you are leading a team that has been able to make this impact for the organization. So data speaks volumes. Always have that data to support how strong of a team that you are leading. And last but not least, difficult conversations. This is going to happen as a leader. You cannot avoid difficult conversations. What I've seen in my career is a leader may have someone within the organization who's not a strong employee, and they will simply try to transfer that employee to another team, another organization so that someone else can handle it. That's not the right way to go about it. If someone is underperforming, you need to have the conversation with them. You need to try to develop them and help them get into a place where they can be a better asset to the company. If they cannot improve their performance, you may need to have that discussion on potentially that employee looking at other options and may no longer be working at the company. You may have to put them on a performance improvement plan, but you need to be able to have these conversations. And one of the things that I strongly recommend when it comes to having difficult conversations, I like to use what's called the feedback sandwich. So if I have negative information that I have for an employee and I'm trying to give them guidance on how they can improve, I will say something good in the beginning. I will squeeze in the middle the negative feedback that I have, and then I will finish with something good at the end. So the negative feedback is sandwiched in the middle of good feedback. So as an example, I may say to an employee, "Hey Ryan, it's been a pleasure working with you. I see that you're eager and you're always willing to jump in and help out wherever possible. But one of the key criterias for this role is that you need to be analytical. And at this time, I'm just not seeing that level of analytical rigor that I'm expecting. I believe that there are some trainings that you can take that are available in the company. There's the advanced analytics training that's available on LinkedIn Learning that I would recommend. I've taken it personally. It's helped me improve. I recommend that you do this, and it should help you get to that next level. So that's an example of a feedback sandwich. I started off by saying how much of a pleasure it's been working with this person. I sandwiched in the middle the fact that I feel that they need to improve on their analytical skills. I, at the end, I provided them with steps where they can improve those skills by taking the advanced analytics class. And once again reiterated that I enjoy working with them and I see the potential for them to improve. So do not avoid these difficult conversations. Find ways to have a productive conversation when you have to bring up something difficult to an employee, but you can't avoid these conversations altogether. All right. Any questions? All right, we'll move on then. So, emotional intelligence, it is extremely important. It is one of the biggest things that I've learned as a people manager. You have to be able to recognize and understand your emotions and manage those emotions as well as the emotions of other people. So you have to be aware of how you're feeling, of how other people are feeling. This ties back into what I said with the motivations. How are people motivated? What's important to them? Are they driven by money? Are they driven by recognition? Are they driven by projects? And you also have to put yourself in other people's shoes. So, people may go through emotions of what's going on in the office during the workday. You have to understand things may happen outside of work as well. People people may have family members who are sick or close friends that may be going through issues, and there are things going on in their personal lives, and be there to listen and understand what people are going through at work, outside of work, be able to empathize, be there for them, create a culture where people feel safe to confide in you and open up with you and share how they're feeling. This will go a very long way. So I've shared with people that report to me, I've shared a lot of personal information and I've broken down walls to build trust, and it's made them feel comfortable to share information with me as well. And the fact that I was able to open up with them, share information about myself, make them feel comfortable sharing things with me, this has helped build a strong relationship with my team, with my direct reports. And when you build that trust and you're able to show that emotional intelligence and understand what people are going through, this will help them, one, perform better for you and just be more comfortable with you, be happier with you. But it makes such a big impact. But you really have to understand and manage your emotions as well as the emotions of other people. So make sure you're taking this into consideration. I'm a big fan of books. One book that I would recommend is called Working with Emotional Intelligence. It's by Daniel Goleman. The book is fantastic, but this is something that you need to take in consideration if you're looking to excel as a people manager. Okay. So as we are wrapping up, I want to make sure that I am giving you calls to action to lead with. So I'm here to train you. I want you to grow and develop. I want to see all of you exceed. I want to see those who are individual contributors today. I want to see you take that step and become a people manager. Those that are currently people managers, I want to see you become even better in your role. And I want to see you excel. So, as I stated, there's three different call to actions that I'm providing you today. The first one, as you prepare to be a supervisor, one, you have to excel in your role, perform at a high level. Okay. You have to be one of the top performers in order to make that next step. And think big. Don't just focus on your role. What can you do for the greater team, the greater organization, the company? How can you help your colleagues? Think about how you can make a bigger impact on the organization. Find opportunities where you can get that experience, whether that's managing interns, managing contractors. Get feedback from your manager so you can close gaps and get that experience. Identify ways where you can provide a business reason for you to have a team. These are all steps you can take in order to eventually take that next step as a leader. Lead without authority. You don't need direct reports to be a leader. You can find opportunities to lead projects or take on leadership roles in different employee resource groups, organizations. Get involved with interviewing. These are all steps that you can take as you're trying to make that transition to a people manager. Once you do become a people manager, as I said, you want to focus on hiring and developing a team. You're only as strong as your team. You want to delegate the work. You can't do everything yourself. You have to filter what work is going to your team, what work is not going to your team. These are all different things that you have to understand what the wants and needs are of each individual. People are motivated in different ways. So if you're able to do these items, this can really help get you to the next level as a leader, as a manager. And then last but not least, emotional intelligence. As I said, this is critical. You want to be able to understand and manage your emotions. You want to understand and manage the emotions of other people and be able to empathize, put yourself in their shoes, try to understand what they're going through, whether it's something in the workplace, whether it's something outside the workplace, be there for them, be someone that they can confide in, build that culture where they feel comfortable speaking with you. So these are all different ways where one, you could take that step from being an individual contributor to a people manager. And then once you take that step to a people manager, these are ways that you can excel in your role as a supervisor. So, with that being said, I want to thank everyone for taking the time to meet today. I hope that you got a lot out of this training, and I'm going to open it up for any questions.